All right. You got to turn on the stream, Tom. You got to turn on the stream. It's a simple thing. You just click go live. You can do it. We know you can do it. There we go. My YouTube screen says starting at 12:45 p.m., but it's now 11:48 p.m. What gives? Well, your YouTube screen, I can't explain your YouTube screen, Tommy, but I wonder if perhaps your time is not set correctly. Well, no, but you said it was 1:48. It's 1:50 here, which means it's 2:50 in Eastern time, which is almost 3 o'clock, which is start time. So I can't explain that unless your PC is set for a different time than your local time. All right, question. The PTZ camera has NDI but will not connect to vMix. Why not? Not on the same network? Can I run an SDI cable to the PTZ camera but still use the Cat 6 cable for PoE? You should be able to, sure. And you should, assuming that it's on the same network, you should be able to use the Cat 6 cable for control, but you could use it for audio, for video if you could use it for control. But it should work for PoE. The proof is in the pudding. Proof is in the pudding. Well, you missed Tommy's and my time zone challenge. And yes, I am on with audio for a change. What happened was, let me tell you what happened. I started the, let me freeze the chair so it doesn't squeak. I started the live stream at 1/2 the hour. Wherever you are, it was 1/2 the hour. And I started it in vMix, but I forgot to click the start button in YouTube. Don't ask me why. It's just a thing. And so because normally I do that at 1/2 the hour. At 1/4 till the hour, I got on and started talking and saw Tommy was there. And then realized, oh, there's no video. You would think somebody that had been around the block as many times as I have. There's a path around the block. But you would think that somebody like me, yeah, would have figured out these things by now. Oh, well. Oh, well. So Tommy says, I think, yeah, you probably do. You probably do. Could be a cable problem. Could be that your network switch is not working right. Could be that somebody changed a setting on the router. Just lots of different things. It's a good a cool Saturday afternoon project with a cold drink. Yeah, and not be in a hurry. Yep. Gotcha. Okay, let's see. Got a question here from Vlad. 4 8 gigabytes or 2 16 gigabytes? Well, that's a good question. So you're talking about 32 gigs of memory. I got that. The question is, would you ever go to 64? If you think you might go to 64, say maybe within the next year or so, I would go with 2 16s, because then you can add another 2 16s without having to replace all your memory. On the other hand, if you think 32 gigs, which is 4 at 8 gigs apiece, if you think 32 gigs is going to do you long term, my understanding is that the PC will respond more rapidly to 4 slots of memory than it will to 2 slots of memory. Now, I don't have any documentation to back that up. I read that a time or two, a place or two, a year or two ago, but it should be pretty easy to substantiate. So if you're going to upgrade in the future, I'd go with 2 16s. If you're not going to upgrade in the future, I'd go with 4 8s, or all things being equal, I'd go for the cheaper set. Keep an eye on your speeds though. And also sometimes your motherboards will be set to a sort of a default factory setting, and they won't run your RAM at full speed. So you have to go into the BIOS and adjust that. But check, depending on what motherboard you've got, will determine how that works. All right. Tommy said, in the Army, we called it a head space problem. Head space problem. Yeah. Yep. You need some space for your head. Yeah. Like with a hat that's too small or a ceiling that's too low. Yeah, I was in a, what was it, Sunday? Sandy and I were up at the storage unit. And I was working on top of something that we have stored in the storage unit. So I was really close to the ceiling, and I had a headspace problem. I couldn't walk. It was too low. I had to crawl through this kind of quote unquote attic in, geez, I don't know, 100, 110, 115 degree heat. It wasn't smart. Let's put it that way. And in retrospect, I shouldn't have done it. But there we go. Well, there you go. Sometimes, Vlad, experience, even if it's not recent experience, can be a good indicator. For example, I haven't worked and haven't solved that problem that you brought up recently. But I remember just enough about it to kind of hopefully get you pointed in the right direction. And it's probably a matter of record somewhere. What is, you guys can barely see this, can't you? That is the straw. Don't tell Sandy. But I had it's not a Coke. It's not a Coke. It's a cherry Coke. Oh my goodness. And it's good, especially on a hot day like today. I mean, for us, it's only, maybe 93, 94 degrees. Where I had a quick trip to the city dump this morning. Everybody's got to go to the dump sooner or later. Yep. Quick trip to the city dump, and it was hot as blue blazes. So there. So let's see. Your head is not empty. You remember when people would say it, and they may say it about you and me now too, is, he's forgotten more than you ever knew, which is sort of a compliment and sort of not. But I'm getting to the point where I really do understand that. I'll be working on a project and I was like, I've seen this before. And then I'll dredge it out of my memory what it was. And, I've kind of forgotten it. And I've forgotten more than I've forgotten more than I ever knew. Yeah. Now we've got a really interesting show today. I think it's interesting, and it's a problem. It's a problem that I had here in the studio. Well, actually in the workshop, and I am in the process of building a system for a small cable company that does their own productions, and promised them that we would have a PC that would have 8 SDI ports and 2 HDMI ports. And I was going to use a Blackmagic mini recorder for each of the extra HDMI ports. And it would give them an extra SDI if they needed it. Not that I would expect they'd ever use 10 cameras at the same time. But I thought, well, we'll just put in 2 Blackmagic mini recorders. And I got into the build and realized that the graphics card was going to obscure one of the PCIe ports that I needed. And with that, let's go get this show on the road. We're going to use the X-Keys XK80, customized to perfection by me. And here we go. Ta-da! All right, yay. Yeah, I think I told you guys about a couple, 3 weeks ago, I had some problems with my shortcuts. And I outsmarted myself. I had my my X-Keys XK80, again, customized to perfection, plugged into a hub, and the hub was plugged into my PC. And the X-Keys, the XK80 will do fine on a USB 2 connection. And it worked spectacularly. And then all of a sudden it stopped working. And I noticed other things were stopped working from the hub. So I thought, it's, the hub has given up the ghost. It was. But before I got it, before I decided to replace it, I said, let's just check. And the little red light was on, so I knew it was getting power. And the light always stays red. It doesn't turn green or flash or anything like that. It's just a solid red. And I looked at it. It was plugged into the hub connection. The USB port that goes to the PC was plugged in. And I went to the PC, and there was a port, a USB port, a USB plug, the same color, plugged in, not labeled, but plugged in. And I went to trace them back. And the one plugged into the PC was an extension. And the one plugged into the port, to the hub, was not plugged into the extension. I had unplugged it for some reason. I don't know, a temporary project. I was testing something, who knows? Never plugged it back in. Plugged it back in and everything worked. So there you go. There you go. Success story again with things that I broke and fixed. Yeah, there we go. So today we're going to talk about how to solve a problem. How to solve the problem is, and this is a sample motherboard that I just picked up. This is actually one that I need to return for repair or replacement. Actually, I don't really care because it's got a PCI slot on it. I would never use this in a build. I might use it to build something for, a family member or something like that. But you can see on it, and let me put it down here where you can see better, and we'll give you some other views of it. Here we go. I think this will look okay. You can see here that there are multiple PCIe slots and a PCI slot. You notice the groove is in the back. That's how you can tell it's PCI, and the groove is in the front for PCIe. And also there are two M.2 slots. And it's got a little key in it, and that keys to a particular type of M.2, in this case, generally a solid state drive, or in my case, it keys to a device that will allow me to put in a capture card. And the problem I had was that, and this board is not exactly what I had, but I was populating this one and pretend that one doesn't exist. And I had a graphics card that covered up these two, but it also infringed on this one. So this one wasn't usable. So I had this one for the graphics card, this one covered, this one for my 8-port card, this one for a 1-port card, and then pretend that one doesn't exist. And it's like, okay, I can't get anything in there. It just physically won't go in. So how am I going to get that extra single HDMI input? Well, the solution was from Magewell, and it is the Capture Dual HDMI M.2. Dual means two, just in case you're wondering. And this is the little guy right here. Cute little guy. And it's just an M.2 with a supersized heatsink and 2 ports on it. And it would just slide right into the M.2 port. I don't have a screw to hold it in, but it would slide in there. And then the connectors would slide in here and go to the back plate. And so I thought it might be fun to kind of plug that in and see what happens. And maybe even if we have time, we can fire it up and see how it works. But I've got an actual build going on over here, so I'm going to take you over there with me, and we're gonna install this guy, and we can see how easy it is. And so you can see, I don't know if that's going to focus that close in. Yeah, there we go. Almost focused. There we go. Oh, nope. It faded off. All right, well, let's go over to the other place. And we are going to I'm going to put you on a camera that is my cell phone doing a vMix call. And so we'll switch the audio to that cell phone. And yeah, here we go. So we've got cell phone audio now. And let's just take it around. Forgive the mess. There's always something coming and going. And this is the current build. This is a, set this guy down for just a second. This is actually a pretty neat system. It's a portable with a screen built in, 17-inch monitor. And they needed something that they could take out to football stadiums. And you can see here, the problem I've got is that little guy right there is covered up. This is the 8-port. See if we can manage this little device here. There we go. So there's the 8-port, and there's the other HDMI port with the SDI port on it. And then we've got one M.2 for the main drive here, and then a pair of M.2s here. And there's one M.2 slot open right there. And so we're going to slip this guy in there. But that guy plugs into something like this. We got a good, there's a good background. And you can see the plug on that side. And then this would go on the back plate. And I determined, based on how this case is designed, that I simply wanted to take one of the spacers in the back plate and just put an HDMI shaped hole in it and use that. And we've actually got 2 of these, one for each of our ports. So let's see if we can one-handed slip this little guy in there. And he slips in just like that, they say. No problem, just put it in. There we go. And then it's got just a little I don't know what you call this thing at the back end here. They used to use screws, but now they're using these little bar things. A little kind of a swivel. Let's change hands here. I'm working with my offhand. That's not always good. Swivel around. We may have to use a screwdriver, or we may just have to put the camera down and use two hands. I've had it in once before. I know, let's cheat. Let's put a screwdriver on it to weigh it down. See what that'll do. And then another screwdriver to get it to spin around. Did that do it? I believe it did. We'll double check it, obviously, before we ship it out. But there we go. So that's put in. That didn't take but a second. And now we're going to take one of these guys and take a close look at the pins here. And we can see that there are two slots on this side and one slot on that side. So that'll help us orient this correctly in there. And we'll just put one of them in for now. It may be all we can manage one-handed. Probably be easier if we took the graphics card out, wouldn't it? But what fun would that be? Come on, Tom. You can do this. You can do this left-handed in front of a crowd of thousands. Well, let's just take the graphics card out. What the heck? Won't take but a second. One of the best tools I ever bought was this little electric screwdriver. It is very handy and saves the wrist big time. There we go. Now we're just going to put you guys down for a second and let you watch from there. There we go. We can probably just leave this guy plugged in. It looks like the next door is holding in, so let's take that guy out. There we go. It's disattached there and there and there. Oh, I know what it is. Sorry about that. There we go. And it pops right out. The monitor for this guy plugs in via DisplayPort. All right. So now we've got a free and clear look at this guy. Yeah. So we can plug him back in again. And we've got two slots on the left, so that should plug in right there. Boom, boom. Cool. There we go. And then that's going to go right in there in just a moment. So that's it. That's really literally how hard it was. I'm going to put a driver in, and actually probably, yeah, I don't need to be carrying this around unless I can give it my full attention, because if I drop it, we'll have to start again. But yeah, that wasn't too tough. That wasn't too tough. So let's go back over here to the desk, and we'll switch back over here. There we go. And yeah. So a problem, ran out of space on the motherboard. It's not a situation where they're going to use all 8 SDI cameras and both HDMI cameras at the same time. In fact, we'll go ahead and hook up both of those on the on the M.2 Magewell, and we may pull that HDMI Blackmagic card out so that there's no chance of overloading it with 11 cameras. I don't think that would happen, but nevertheless, we probably need to make it as idiot-proof as possible. And the only other thing to do at this point is to download the driver. And I went to the Magewell website earlier. Let's see, can we pull the Magewell website up? Yeah, I think we've got it right here. And the Magewell website allows us to be able to, let's see, we've got support right here, which is going to take us, which will take us to downloads. And at downloads, then we can go to the Eco Capture. That's this category right here. And we've got a whole list of the downloads. In this case, we want to probably just go to the driver. And we can see we've got past drivers as well as current drivers. And this current driver was released December 28th, 2022. So it's, it's 8 months old, but it's not like it's a Blackmagic or excuse me, it's not like it's a NVIDIA driver, which they release one every 3 weeks. We would think that a driver for a capture device should be pretty solid and should stay pretty much the same. And what we find here is that let's see, do we have the right driver there? Driver for Windows 11 and Windows 10, and had a couple of fixes, and the ones before that basically added support for other items. Now in this line, and this is kind of cool, I think, if we go to the products line, and then we're going to go to let's see, go back to products, and I believe Eco Capture is that one. Yeah, that's where we were just a second ago. And we can see, I don't know how well you can see. Let me see if I can sharpen this up just a little bit. That might help. There we go. We can see here at the top. Oh, hold on, let me catch up over here where I can see. We've got a single port. We've got a dual port HDMI. We've got a dual port SDI. We've got a quad port SDI. We've got a 4K HDMI and a 4K SDI. And all of that would be in this form factor right here. Let's see, in fact, if we scroll down a little bit, we can see, yeah, there we go. That's the line right there. The card that you were looking at with me just a second ago is the one farthest to the left. And you can see that the HDMIs have a kind of a rectangular connector, and the SDIs have a circular connector. The only trick, I think, is to make sure that your motherboard and your CPU, of course, will be able to carry all of the video that you want to use. In our case, my recommendation to the client is going to be, hey, you can use up to 8 cameras and mix them any way you want, but even though you've got 10 ports, I'm not going to certify that you can use all 10 ports for video. Now the Blackmagic DeckLink Quad 2 card, 8-port SDI, but it's also, in addition to being inputs, it's also outputs, not simultaneously, but either or. So again, I think the same rule is going to apply. You can only use 6 of those ports if you're using the other 2 HDMI ports. Whether you're using those 6 as inputs or outputs, don't care, but we're just talking about PCIe lanes. on the PC, and we want to make sure that we stay within within a reasonable budget. Let's put it that way. We might be able to stretch outside of that, but I feel more confident staying, not at 100% of our capacity. Let's, like PCs, right now we're doing 4K 60. Now it's only a talking headshot, so it's not that hard in that sense, but it is 4K and it is 60 frames a second. So 4K is 4 times HDMI, and 60 frames a second is twice 30 frames a second. So if I were doing a regular show like I did years ago that was HD at 30 frames a second, what I'm doing right now is 8 times as much data, 4K plus twice the frame rate, 8 times as much data as I did years ago. And this PC is cruising along at 35, 22, 24, kind of shifting around, but well under 50%. And that's great. Anytime you get in, I think for total CPU, when you get into the 75% range, using vMix anyway, you're in kind of a danger area where you're going to begin to have issues as you go up and up and up. CPU for vMix portion is 16%, total CPU is 31%. So we're doing well. But the real key, if you're trying to evaluate, is my system doing well, the real key is the render time. The render time, the time it takes to render 1 frame of video, for me right now is 8 milliseconds. That's really, really good. That's far less than 1/60th of a second. So we're in good shape there. Anyway, got off track. But the idea is you don't want to exceed your capacity. You want to leave some overhead room there. And also remember, in a heated environment, like an unair conditioned Southern Alabama football press box in September can be bloody hot. And if you get too hot, your PC is going to begin to throttle the CPU. Which is never, ever good. So we make sure that our guys have as much cooling as possible, but it's not going to be like air-conditioned cooling. So yeah, don't want to get into a situation where really you're more than 80 degrees if you can help it. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to take that Blackmagic DeckLink mini recorder card out and use both of the ports on the M.2 from Magewell, the Capture Dual HDMI M.2. I want to have a talk with people that name these things. Just give it a name like Shazam, and then you can talk about what it does after that. But the name is an Eco Capture. What in the world is Eco? Eco, E-C-O, Eco. Eco for me says economy. Eco for me says less than full power. We're on economy power. We're an economy car, not a full-size car. So I would get rid of the eco part. That is not helping your brand. I tell you what else is not helping your brand. Hang on a second, I'll be right back. And it's not brand so much. Okay. While we're complaining here, we've got this wonderful little connector that connects to the M.2 device, the Capture Dual HDMI M.2. And then we've got this backplate device that is HDMI. That's great. I love it. But if you want to put this into anything, you have to cut a hole for this. Unless you just happen to have an HDMI hole cut in your case. I've never seen that. I've seen all sorts of backplates and things like that. I guess you could get a custom backplate that had this done, but it would be sure nice if you supplied a little paper template that showed what the cutout was right here that I could trace onto whatever I wanted to cut it out. That would make it just a little bit easier for the end user. Just a little template right there. And you notice there are 2 screw holes right there. Well, that's great. I love screw holes. What screws are they? Is there any documentation that tells me what size screw to use? Maybe it's on the website. I'll check. We can check together. Nah, we won't do that. It's probably not there. So better yet, include the screws. Well, Tom, we don't know what length you need or whether you need, something with a bolt head on it or whatever. All right. Well, at least tell me what screws to use. Give me a template. In fact, you don't even have to give me a template. Just put a template on your website that I can download from the support page and tell me what kind of screws to use. And that's not, I'm not really, I'm whining. That's what I'm doing. I'm whining. But might make something like this more desirable for an end user, especially not a professional end user, but an intermediate or even a novice end user, to have those little extra helps that make it a little easier for somebody to decide something, to purchase something that's out of their comfort zone, called an Capture Dual HDMI M.2. Or if I read the full name, it's a Magewell Capture Dual HDMI M.2 -new. That's the label that was put on it from whoever I got this from. Didn't come directly from Magewell. Sorry, guys. Wanted to get this in a hurry. So I got it from Amazon. But yeah, there we go. So I will report back on how this guy works when we get him installed and fired up with the driver installed. And I was just looking at the cable here. Has writing on it. Always nice with writing on it. Says don't exceed 80 degrees centigrade. Heck, I hope not. That would be kind of warm. All right, let's flip over to the post show here, and we want to read and see what your comments are. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back to post show. Pretty cool little device, huh? Sorry you had to listen to me whine. But yeah, that's pretty cool. So glad you're watching from the Philippines. Glad to have you. Gremlins will unplug stuff. Well, Tommy, I will unplug stuff and not remember that I did it. So I guess that's the same. Yeah. There you go. So Jan says M.2 slots can be used for lots of fun stuff. Fun stuff. Hey, does Marie know about this? Just added a Google Coral TPU to my home assistant service in the form of an M.2. I don't even want to ask what all that means. Don't even want to do it. 4 billion calculations per second at 2 watts to do AI processing of video without CPU usage. Tell me more. Or you can add additional network cards or USB ports. Especially good in the little teeny form factors. Yeah. And I know I'm trying to think if the M.2 is the format that you can add a wireless access point, Wi-Fi adapter. I'll have to check. But I know you can on a lot of them. Okay, well, let's go back to this one. So Ryan Brenneman with MVD. MVD is the distributor for Magewell in the Americas and have been for the longest time. And MVD is owned by former Osprey people, if you remember Osprey way back when. So they have a deep history in understanding capture devices way back from the standard definition days, the days of 320p video, just ripping. As Tom mentioned, it's good to read your motherboard specs. Some boards share resources of the PCIe lanes with the M.2, and some dedicate. It all depends. That's right. And it also depends on whether it's version 3 or version 4, and I think version 5 is even out of PCIe. And some CPUs and some motherboards have different amount of lanes, which is why we like the good old X299 motherboards, because they just were chock full of like 40 lanes or something like that, which is really, really great if you're doing more than 8 cameras. So it's an either-or scenario based on the motherboard specs. That's right. So maybe we'll pull that Blackmagic card out for sure. Yep. Tommy's going to offer advice for when I was struggling to get that stuff in. Tommy, you could have just simply said, I need smaller fingers. Okay. I agree, Rich. I agree. And there may be, and I know Rich has used Magewell products for years, including one, I think it was a Magewell 4-port SDI card, wasn't it, Rich? And Rich does jet ski racing. Well, he live streams jet ski racing. He's a former professional jet ski racer. And of course, so he knows the sport, and he wanted to get into the live streaming part of it. And we built some equipment for him using the Magewell device, the 4-port SDI capture card. And of course, he's out at the water. Everywhere he goes is water because it's jet skiing. A lot of times it's salt water. And one of the ports on his SDI card, his Magewell SDI card, actually rusted and became unusable. It may have even become unsoldered too because of the rust or something like that. And it was out of warranty. And, he and I talked about it. I said, the worst thing that we can do is if you send it back to Magewell is they can say, it's junk, it's out of warranty, you're on your own, or we'll replace it with a brand new one for X number of dollars. But no, they fixed it, charged him $25 and sent it back to him in a really, really short period of time. So, kudos to Magewell for really great customer support. Now, that was several years ago, and I'm sure with Ryan on their staff now, the support's gotten worse. I mean, better. Just teasing Ryan. So Ryan says the AI card is the newest, and actually that was the one that I wanted to get for this build because I only needed one port, but I couldn't find it. I mean, I couldn't find it in a short period of time that I thought I needed it in. Let's put it that way. So, but I'd like to get one in and test. Maybe I'll order one. And this is my favorite. This is Ryan. Ryan is he's gone over to the dark side, to the corporate side. He's saying eco means small size. Eco doesn't mean what you thought it meant all your life, like economy size. Well, it does mean small size. Okay. But I want something that says powerful small size. Powerful small size. Like Jack Russell Terrier. That's powerful, but a small size. Welcome, Martin. Glad to have you here. Magewell would say that this is an OEM product for people who are going to make their own custom metalwork for their product. They would say that. They would say that, and they would reduce the potential market. Or they could say, hey, let's make this a little bit more consumer friendly by telling them what screw size to use and by putting a template that they can download as a PDF and print out. I'm just saying. Just saying. Echo with two mics. Well, we can get rid of that. Thank you, Tommy. Gee whiz. All right, Vlad has a question here. Vlad says, vMix controller question, Akai, APC Mini, or Stream Deck XL? Uh-huh. I have an Akai Mini actually in the closet that I don't use. I've never used a Stream Deck, so I can't answer that question, except to say that I love my X-Keys XK80, and it is bulletproof. I would not want to drop the Akai APC Mini, because if I dropped it, I'm afraid it would come into 1,000 pieces. Not sure about a Stream Deck, but for $89 or 105 or whatever it cost, I can't imagine it's as bulletproof as my XK80. Yeah, so I'm an X-Keys guy. That's no offense, but yeah. So Ryan says the M.2 is geared to its OEMs who are making their own case. We can supply you with the HDM template if needed. Don't wait. Make it available to me, because by the time I sent you, if I thought you had a template, I would have asked. I just assumed since it wasn't available to me when I looked, that it wasn't available. It's just human nature. Just human nature. It's the whole thing with human nature. All right, so we hear echoing still. How could you hear echoing still? I turned it off. I think you guys need your ears checked. Marie is here. Welcome, Marie. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Marie has also always got my back. I know that. Jan will throw me under the bus, but see, part of the problem is when we stream 4K to YouTube, we can't do low latency because YouTube can't handle 4K that quickly. So we have to do normal latency, which ends up being about, I'd say, probably about 45 milliseconds. 45 milliseconds? No. 45 seconds. So there's always a delay between the time I read it, between the time you say it, no, between the time I say it and you hear it, and then you respond. Yeah. So my bad. Well, that's a good point, Martin. I had forgotten when I saw that, when I set that up this morning to cross over those channels. Oh, actually, it looks like for some reason the left channel was down. Okay, thank you. Let's try it. So now this is the vMix call audio, and it's probably slightly off lip sync wise, and should be both channels. I guess I could adjust it to this picture, but I think it's adjusted to the camera. So let's go back to the regular mic. There we go. Marie's got the solution. There you go. Vlad has a question. Do we think Zoom chat will come to vMix Social? It all depends on, number one, if vMix asks Zoom. And vMix, and this is a great question in a lot of different levels, Vlad, because what you're really saying is, how does vMix get new features added? And vMix gets new features added based on their own intuition, and they're pretty intuitive, but also based on suggestions from you and I that we make in the vMix online forum, which is you can get to through the vMix website. There's a whole section there, a whole section of the forum dedicated to feature requests. And there are probably literally thousands of feature requests over the last 10 or 12 years that may have already been requested. you can search the forums and find out. And if it has already been requested, you can add a +1 to it and, kind of make vMix know that, hey, you're interested in this. And if you're really interested in it, you can go to the different, Facebook groups or other online groups and try to drum up support from fellow vMix users that might benefit by that feature and have them go vote on it too. If nobody's already suggested it, by all means suggest it. In fact, you can make a note of it here, and we'll all go and back you up on that one. Yeah. All right, let's see. What else did we miss here? Oh, and Zoom chat. That's a good idea. I like the idea. I like it. I like it. I like it. I like it. Steve is here. What can I do watching this on my phone? I don't know. Is there still a problem with audio? How are we getting all this extra audio in here? Hold on a second. That's not on. That's not on. That's not on. That's not on. Where are you guys getting all this extra audio that you're complaining, that you're commenting about? I only see it one place, 2 places, 3 places, but it's off in 2 of those 3 places. I think you're just giving me a hard time. You're just giving me a hard time. Still hearing double audio. Wow, wow. Well, let's end the vMix call. That might help. Disconnect. So we'll see if that's part of the issue. Now I hear everything 4 times. Oh, gosh. Now the sign is fine. Okay, thank you. Xavier has both the Stream Deck and the APC Mini. Well, tell us what you think. Tell us what you think. What does Martin say? Martin says, I don't think I have made the same suggestions about helping end users with connectors. I don't think I haven't made the same. Don't think I haven't made the same suggestions about helping end users with connectors with rear panel for the eco cards some years ago too. Well, good. Well, bully. Maybe they'll listen. Maybe if enough of us folks, us amateurs, us intermediate users, I mean, why wouldn't you want your device to be used by as many people as possible? And I understand that you can probably sell 1,000 of these to one person. But I also understand that maybe you could sell 10,000 of these to 10,000 people that wouldn't dare otherwise try to use it. It won't hurt to be a little more consumer friendly. I understand OEMs are probably a lot easier to deal with. They don't have as many stupid questions, but there's just something. Do you remember the story? No, never mind. I won't tell that story. I'll tell that story another time. X keys are not for sale in the Philippines. Really? Maggie, are you listening? Maggie's in charge of sales at X Keys. Maggie, is there no Philippines X key reseller? We'll look. I'll look into that. All right. Jan gets into the mix and he says, depends. Do you change the configuration all the time or is it somewhat static setup? Yeah, good point. Good point. Tommy registers in. X keys is an industrial strength. It works all the time. It's bulletproof. That's right. Audio is good now. Thank you very much. By the way, Eco actually implied low power compared to pro capture equivalents. Aha. Okay. I'm just saying, here in the US, eco is, if I've got a choice between eco and pro, I want the pro. If I've got a choice between super and pro, I might have to look more deeply in there. But if I have a choice between yours and somebody else's, and yours is eco and theirs is pro, and they're approximately the same device for approximately the same price, I'm going to go with the pro. Oh, I'm stupid. Thank you, Ed. I was getting a little worried there. Jan's going to pop in. Stream Deck good for things that changes all the time, but the tactile feel is terrible. Oh. APC Mini, cheap, not super tactile feel, but cheap. It is cheap. It is cheap. Is it hot there, Rich? Oh, no. And Louisiana won't be hot at all. In fact, you'll probably need jeans and a sweatshirt during the middle of the day in the sun, if it's sunny. You might want to bring gloves and woolen underwear. Jan says, I have a feeling Zoom will not open their chat API. Yes, I'm sure. If anything else, Zoom didn't used to be that concerned about security until COVID. And then they realized they were way behind the 8-ball, and Teams was way ahead of the 8-ball. And I had companies that would come to me and say, we love Zoom, but we have to go with Teams. How can we interface vMix with Teams? Yep. Tommy says, I'm unfamiliar with M.2. Other than driver, is it like plugging in a video card or a hard drive, plug and play? Well, the M.2 solid state drive is plug it in and the PC automatically recognizes it as a drive. The capture card that we were talking about earlier, the eco, whatever it is, the eco-friendly, tree-hugging, climate change capture card does require a driver. Yeah, it's not something that would be built into the motherboard per se. And it's never happened before. Well, length of time is in the eye of the beholder, or in this case, the ear of the listener. To me, it sounded fine, but I'm not listening to it. Xavier says the link I sent above, which Xavier, I'm sorry, YouTube cuts out the links. We'll see if we can go in and enable it. That link I sent above was for a PC bracket with the HDMI cutout. All right, let's see if we can go find that. We'll have to go back in time a little bit and see. Xavier sent a link. We're looking through the comments to see. Huh, I don't see it. No, maybe YouTube has already purged it. Try, if you don't mind, try putting it in again, and I'll stay on top of the chat here and see if I can approve it before it gets purged. So I'll keep that out. All right, let's see. So let's go back here. Xavier says that he has used both. He prefers a Stream Deck, but you can have both attached at the same time since one is MIDI and the other is USB. And I think you can have multiple Stream Decks attached. I know you can have multiple X keys attached. Looking forward to the Philippines X keys. Good. We'll see what we can do. Seems plausible. X keys doesn't have resale in the Philippines. How are the rules regarding importing stuff into the Philippines? I don't know. I think the Philippines is pretty USA friendly. So yeah, we'll see. I'll check with Maggie. And I think, Rich, this is for you. This is Marie talking about her time in the Philippines. I mean, in Louisiana, which probably has similar climate to the Philippines. Oh, yes, and there are alligators. That's true, and water moccasins, and yeah, rattlesnakes, and crawdads, and I think there might be scorpions too. Tommy, I just, sometimes I just go off the deep end. What can I say? M.2 is just another connector. That's right. Similar to a 4X PCIe. Ryan says low power is a big factor when you're putting these in a NUC. Oh, good point, because your power supply is not going to be nearly as great as the 1,000-watt power supply I've got in this guy over here, because they just can't support a larger wattage power supply, i.e. size. Yeah, that's right. Good point. Good point. Good point. But I tell you, I would use these guys. I would use these guys all the time in place of capture cards, because I don't think they produce as much heat, although they might. And they certainly are more space friendly. Just saying. Or if cooling was an issue. Yeah, the reason I was suggesting getting a hold of Maggie, Marie, was to see if they have a reseller in the Philippines. It would be a surprise to me if they didn't have somebody either in the Philippines or somebody close by that service the Philippines. Yeah. I mean, where do these people come up with this stuff? I mean, really. Really. Well, guys, I think we're coming to the end of our. Jan sent me a note in Facebook saying, audio. There. So we're coming to the end of our time together today. And maybe you guys at MVD can add a template to your website under downloads. That would be a PDF file. And maybe include a note as to what the screw specs are on these little guys. And yeah. And I don't know, I am probably not considered an OEM in the great grand scheme of things, because I don't build huge quantities of equipment, but I build custom equipment for particular clients. And routinely, I will build more than one for clients. I have repeat clients, people who have ongoing needs because they're doing something with my system, putting it into something else that they're working with, and then marketing it on out from that. Several clients that do that, and then a bunch that just have expanding organizations and continue to need live streaming gear. Excuse me. So I'm not an OEM in that sense, because my numbers aren't OEM-esque. But I'm also not an end user, because even though I might be tempted to put something like this into one of the builds that I use here in the studio, I'm not going to use it for myself frequently or as much. But yeah, I could see a great consumer use for this, especially if the price becomes a little more competitive. Now, yeah, you've got the Elgato capture card that you can get out there for the price of a milkshake at McDonald's. I get that. But I don't know. Let me think about it some more. I'll think about it some more. What the heck? What can I say? What can I say? Ouch. Yep. Shipping to the U.S. from the U.S. to the Philippines is too expensive, 50 to 80%. Same from U.S. to Sweden, says Marie. And I didn't realize there was a great demand for mules. At least not around here. For those of you that are outside the U.S. and you're thinking of purchasing products from the U.S., don't get the seller to do the shipping. Contact a reshipper in the U.S. because generally they can get you much better rates. It might take an extra day or two in the shipping process, or it might not, because the reshippers are used to dealing with shipping outside of the U.S. and know about, customs and duties and fees and all those kinds of things that can slow down a shipment and add to the cost. Frequently, when we are selling to somebody either in Europe or in the Caribbean, I think Israel and maybe Guam, I don't remember. I'd have to check that one to be sure. We've used a reshipper, and it's been a flawless experience, and the shipping has been far less. And generally, the reshippers will use DHL or UPS, so it's pretty high quality shipping experience where you can track it, etc. I think there's one here, and the one here in the U.S. we've used the most is called MyUS, MYUS.com, MyUS.com. So look at that. Don't know about Sweden. Don't know about the Philippines. And you wouldn't use it to ship to Alabama. So yeah. Ed says same problem with South America. Okay. So here the reseller just adds the shipping cost to the price. Only good thing about buying locally is you don't have to deal with the service from Post Nord. Gotcha. Hello, Michael Graves. Good to see you. Glad to have you. It's an amateur mistake. Moonshine is all one word. And now, if you grew up in Alabama, you would know that intuitively. No, we didn't. I think the ones that we've talked about today, the Magewell one was the FPGA, but I wouldn't swear to that. Ryan, if he's still here, can answer that. Yep. All right, guys, I'm going to go back to work on this. Loved having you with me today. Thank you for taking your time out. If you missed the show, it'll be available on YouTube ever so shortly. And we will catch you guys next week. Take care.